Welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in, because we're looking at one of the absolutely most fascinating stories of our time. We're going to unpack the hard data behind India's transition from a struggling post-colonial state into literally the fastest growing major economy on Earth. You know, for the last couple of decades, the world has been intensely focused on China's meteoric rise. We hear the term superpower thrown around constantly, but quietly, almost in the background, a sleeping giant has been waking up. Today, we're going to dig into the actual metrics, the economic engines, the demographic shifts, the sheer scale of it all that suggests the next global superpower is already stepping onto the main stage. Okay, to anchor where we are today, we really have to wrap our heads around the sheer scale we're dealing with here. By 2026, India's nominal GDP is projected to hit a staggering $4.15 trillion. Trillion. That number firmly cements its place as the sixth largest economy in the world. And honestly, if you measure by purchasing power parity, it ranks even higher at third. It's an absolute massive volume of wealth generation.
But listen, it's not just the size, it's the speed. The economy is consistently growing at an incredible 6.5% year over year. When you think about other major global economies, many of which are frankly just crawling along at 1 or 2%, India is massively outpacing them. It's almost doubling its GDP every 8 to 9 years. But to truly get how they pulled this off, we have to look back.
See, this explosive growth isn't exactly a new phenomenon. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a massive reclamation project. Back in the 17th century, under the Mughal Empire, India was a total manufacturing powerhouse, producing an estimated 25% of the world's industrial output. But leap forward to 1947 at independence, and it was a deeply impoverished nation facing severe crises. That struggle lasted for decades, right up until a forced economic reset in 1991 changed literally everything. To put that historical drop into perspective, former Prime Minister Manmohan Singh really hit the nail on the head. He pointed out how India's share of world income completely collapsed, from nearly a quarter of all global wealth in 1700 down to less than 4% by the mid-20th century, largely because of the colonial era. Understanding that immense drain sets the stage for why the 1991 economic reforms weren't just a political choice. They were an absolute matter of national survival. So 1991 hits, and India faces a severe balance of payments crisis. They were practically out of foreign exchange reserves and on the brink of defaulting on their international loans. In exchange for an IMF bailout, the government made a huge pivot. They tore down the infamous License Raj, which was this suffocating system of bureaucracy and red tape, slashed their tariffs, and just opened their markets. That one incredibly painful decision fully embraced globalization and sparked the transformation we're seeing today. And wow, did that pivot create some entirely new engines of growth. Look at how the economy is structured now. Over half the entire economy, 54.7% for sure, is driven by a massive booming service sector. While agriculture still employs a huge chunk of the population, it's those services and the growing industrial base that are truly supercharging the GDP. Now, you might be thinking of the India from 20 years ago, the traditional hub for basic call centers and business outsourcing. But they didn't just stay there. The whole country evolved aggressively into a total powerhouse for high-value product engineering, complex consultancy, and top-tier research and development. It's a real game changer. We are literally talking about an estimated 5 million software developers today. That is roughly 14.7% of the entire global software engineering workforce. So, what does that mean for you? Well, there's a huge chance that the code running your international banking app or your favorite streaming service was written right there. Indian talent is currently powering over half of the world's global capability centers. But hey, it goes way beyond digital tech. India is the literal pharmacy of the world. They supply around 20% of the global demand for generic medicines. And get this, over 60% of all vaccines produced globally by volume, from highly regulated markets in North America and Europe to developing nations, the entire globe relies on their pharmaceutical output every single day. Meanwhile, back home, they are pouring all this economic momentum straight into concrete and steel. They're building futuristic infrastructure on a scale that's honestly hard to ignore. Massive investments are funding a 1,300-plus kilometer expressway connecting Delhi and Mumbai, the country's first high-speed bullet train, and a massive mission to turn 100 urban centers into digitally connected smart cities. It is a total physical overhaul of the nation. And they're projecting this power well beyond their borders. India holds the fourth largest military in the world, and they're pushing a huge Make in India campaign to build their own defense hardware. But maybe the craziest part? Their space agency recently pulled off a historic lunar South Pole landing with Chandrayaan 3, and they did it with a budget smaller than what Hollywood spends on a sci-fi blockbuster? No way, right? But it's totally true. Add to all of that an incredibly deep cultural soft power. Yoga is practiced in over 180 countries, Bollywood is a global phenomenon, and there's a highly influential 30 million strong diaspora. I mean, Indian-born executives are currently leading giants like Google, Microsoft, and Adobe. Plus, diplomatically, India has really positioned itself as the confident, balancing voice of the global South. Section: The Ground Reality. Subtitle: Navigating the Microeconomic Hurdles. Let's move on and look at the other side of the coin. As an impartial explainer, we really have to ground this narrative. There is massive friction between these high-flying macro numbers and the micro-reality for everyday citizens. While growth hums at 6.5%, almost a quarter of the population, 23.9% as of 2022, still lived below the poverty line. Plus, the IMF has flagged issues with measuring the massive informal sector, meaning the benefits of this $4.15 trillion economy definitely haven't trickled down to everyone yet. Unemployment is another really complex puzzle here. In late 2024, urban joblessness sought around 6.4%. But that burden isn't shared equally at all. It disproportionately hits women, who face an 8.1% urban unemployment rate compared to 5.8% for men. Job creation is racing, sure, but it is seriously struggling to outpace the sheer volume of young people entering the market every single year. So, what should you really take away from this? Simply put, India must still navigate some profound domestic challenges to truly unlock its potential. A staggering 44% of the workforce is still heavily reliant on vulnerable, small-scale farming. When you add in the struggle of managing severe pollution in their booming cities and a widening wealth gap, it's clear the road ahead requires massive social management. But with projections showing India becoming the world's third largest economy by 2050, the momentum is absolutely undeniable. We are watching a nation bridge the gap between ancient history and a high-tech future. So it leaves us with this incredible question. While the world had its eyes fixed on other global powers, has the most populous